Joining me now to discuss the investigative report of the National Safety Investigation Bureau is the Director General of the National Safety Investigation Bureau himself, Alex Badeh Jr. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Deswa.
So while our viewers wait to hear the reports which you released earlier today, can you give us highlights of what reports exactly are these? How many accidents are we looking at?
There were 6 final accident reports from 2021 to 2023. And of course, the preliminary report of the East Wind Aviation helicopter accident that happened in October of this year.
And is that a final report for the helicopter accident in Port Harcourt?
No, that's the preliminary.
Preliminary?
Yes.
And what have you found out so far?
Found out, we just state the facts, which we put out there. And I'm not, I mean, I can read this out, the initial findings with this. Of course, some of them seem kind of canned. The flight crew were certified, of course, to conduct the flight. We talk about who was flying, who wasn't flying. The airplane had a valid certificate of airworthiness. The flight plan, the bodies that were identified, and the helicopter was fitted with a solid state voice recorder. Of course, that's where that's where it seems to be the focus right now, or at least where it seems they were in contravention of the Nigerian Civil Aviation regulations. They should have had a flight data recorder.
So this flight didn't have a data recorder. In other words, we do not know what was captured during this flight and in its last moments before it crashed.
We do know the conversations in the cockpit. We just don't know the parameters. So the cockpit voice recorder records the cockpit environment and sometimes the cabin, so you can hear what the pilots conversing and saying and what they were going through or what they were thinking at that time. But the flight data recorder gives us how the helicopter performed, engines and everything else. So that we do not have at this moment because for some reason it doesn't seem to be fitted with that. But we're discussing deeply into that with the Civil Aviation Authority as well right now.
Okay, great. So let's take a pause and play that report by our correspondent, Mary Chinda.
It's a presentation of 7 aviation investigative reports on incidents that mostly occurred between 2021 and 2024. The Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Captain Alex Badeh, takes the lead.
The crash occurred in the ocean about 1.4 kilometers from NNPC, FPSO New Antan, at the Bight of Bonny, Finima. Some life vests and 3 bodies were recovered from the crash area. Some of the bodies recovered had inflated life vests on them. Further perimeter search was carried out, and no additional persons or bodies were recovered on the day of the occurrence. The 3 recovered bodies were transported to New Antan and handed over to the medical team.
The recent crash of a cargo plane which skid off the runway at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport is linked to bad weather and fatigue on the parts of the pilots.
Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority should ensure strict compliance to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations, NIGCARS 2023, Part 7.8.2.2Q, which requires that all helicopters with a maximum takeoff mass of 3,175 kilograms and up to 7,000 kilograms to be fitted with a flight data recorder, FDR.
The flight crew stated that on landing, the left main wheel touched the runway first, followed by the right main wheel. The aircraft veered to the right, and flight instructor applied left rudder to keep the aircraft on the runway. The right main landing gear sheared off, and the right wing impacted the runway as the aircraft veered to the right of the runway. All the occupants disembarked unhurt. The incident occurred at 10:16 hour daytime in instrument meteorological conditions.
The NSIB is also calling on regulatory body, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, to tighten its regulatory requirements. Some other reports presented include that of a Bell 429 helicopter incident in January 2022, an United Airlines incident of November 2021, and that of Max Air Embraer of April 2022. Mary Chinda, Arise News.
Well, I still have the Director General of the Investigation Bureau with me here in the studio. So that was the report you released earlier. You wanted to make a clarification about a weather report that wasn't included in one of these reports?
No, not that it wasn't included. I saw Allied was mentioned. We're still investigating Allied.
So there's no report on Allied
no
at the
report.
moment?
No report on Allied.
Investigation is still ongoing?
Yes,
okay,
it
great.
is.
But this was between 2021 and 2023, which makes sense because Allied just happened. So,
Yes.
And these were 6 final reports.
Yes.
Tell us if there's a common thread in the causal and contributory factors in all of these incidents. Was there a common thread? Is there something recurring?
No, I mean, I don't want to call this a common thread. I mean, again, you put a human there are bound to be certain lapses, but nothing that really jumps to mind. And again, remember, the NSIB is not to apportion blame. We just state the findings as we see them. So, of course, there is some maybe flouting of regulations. You know, it's not, I don't want to say it's on purpose. It's, you know, mistakes happen, but again, we just recommend that, you know, they should be looked deeper into.
And in your professional opinion, are these systemic issues of cutting corners or inadequate training? Because you talked about pilot fatigue, you talked about these lapses, human errors that could happen. I mean, we are humans, but when lives are involved in the skies, then you have to be a bit more careful, if not 100% careful. So what are we seeing here? Is it inadequate training? Why are the pilots fatigued? What's going on?
Well, fatigue is not necessarily a training thing, it's a human factor. So we would say, yes, we want more of a better fatigue risk management system.
Yeah, I mentioned training because I do know that we have a lot of Nigerians who are trained as pilots and we churn them out year after year. So imagine the irony of hearing that our pilots are fatigued.
Well, again, like I said, it's not necessarily a training thing, it's a human factor thing. So with fatigue, you know, it's just people get tired. So that's more, you know, it's, I would like to see less punitive repercussions for calling them fatigued. But as you know, I mean, even the Nigerian passengers, if a pilot jumps up at 10 p.m. and says he's tired and he's too tired to go, passengers get irate at the airport. So it's not just on the pilots, you know, even the passengers. So there's that pressure sometimes to complete. So, I mean, we did mention that in one of our reports about the pressure to complete the mission, you know. So, of course, we would like to look to people stand up more and say, hey, I'm tired, I can't fly tonight. Get them a hotel and they fly in the morning. You know, it can wait, whatever happens can wait. It's better to wait than have an accident like we saw with one of them. I think it was a hawker in Bauchi, and, you know, fatigue contributed to that. So, yeah, speaking of fatigue, I wouldn't call it a training thing. I think it's more human factors and more a discussion.
A system thing?
Yeah, a little bit of a systemic thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but it depends on it varies from operator to operator. As you know, we only spoke about that with one operator there, so it's not a widespread
it's
thing.
just
Yeah.
one
Yes.
instance.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about recommendations. Did you make recommendations after this investigation?
Yes, we did. I don't have them
Top of your head,
top of my
but
head,
yes.
but they're on our website,
Great.
nsib.gov.ng, so you can see that. We invite all stakeholders to go there and read those reports, because, you know, we all travel, and, you know, once people, you know, take those in and they take corrective actions to that, it saves lives and prevents reoccurrence in the future.
But as the head of the investigation bureau, I mean, what are you telling the regulator, the NCA, for instance, after going through these investigations? What would you be telling the NCAA?
What I always tell them, and we talk every day, I talk to the Director General often, and I just tell them, hey, these are what we found, you know, be a little, you know, a little hard or harder on these operators, you know. Of course, we understand the economic situation in the country, and typically when you push, you know, when you overregulate, it might be a problem. So he has to find a fine line between overregulating and being hard. So, you know, he has a tough job. You know, I sympathize with him, but, you know, I always advise him to, you know, push his people to look deeper into these things. But again, like I said, he has to be careful to not overregulate the industry, because then it stifles growth.
Indeed. And do we know why these reports have taken this long? 2021, this is 2024, December. We're just getting the final reports for some of them.
Well, two things. Investigative processes typically are long. You know, it just depends on the complexity of the accident. And of course, manpower. We are a little short-staffed. You know, like I said, the last time I was here, retaining these skilled investigators and other experienced investigators from outside, it's a little difficult. Just, the pay scales, the government pay scales just can't match what's out there, in the commercial space. So it's hard to retain good people when, we just don't pay as much as, the civil market out there pays.
Great. So manpower, shortage of staff has delayed
and
this
funding,
reports. And funding.
Yes, of course.
Have delayed this reports 2021 to 2023. Let me ask you, because there's also something that was highlighted in the report, disobedience to civil aviation regulations. How severe is that? When you say disobedience to civil aviation regulations, what civil aviation regulations are we talking about here?
I'm going to have to go refer to that because that was one of my GMs who read that. But yes, disobedience to any regulation, it's bad, especially again when lives are involved. Airplanes flying that fast. Most accidents are fatal. So, I know there was some willful, not willful, but there was some disobedience to certain Nigerian civil aviation regulations, as we're finding, but it's not, again, a widespread thing. It's isolated. And again, sometimes the term disobedience, we're not saying it was willful. It could be inadvertent as well, disobedience to those regulations. And we just say it that, hey, you didn't follow this regulation, so please tighten up and follow it next time.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Director General, National Safety Investigation Bureau, Alex Badeh Jr., for being on the news tonight.
Thank you, Adisa.
We do appreciate your insights to this report.